key injuries for these two teams, and the Wildcats get things started going north to south today. Same lineup for Northwestern as they ran out against Penn State on Friday, with one notable exception. Chloe Relford makes her second career start in the midfield. For Maryland, a couple starter changes as well, as Lauren Wattis carries ahead. And before it's taken away, a whistle goes. Going against Maura Verleg that time, who's playing a little bit higher, at least to start, than we saw her against Iowa. Maryland has jumbled up the back line a little bit from how they had it. Riley Donnelly steps into the starting lineup today in the back, grad student. We'll see how that affects things for the Terps. For now, turning on the far side, that's Fichter. Natalie Fichter up top, nearly dispossessed by Zimmer, but holds on to it. Gives it off to Leah Krause. You mentioned 8 players with at least 3 goals, Matt, for this Maryland team. It's been offense by committee all season long, but they only used 3 subs with Hope Rose out on Friday against Iowa. Didn't need any more than that to win in overtime. See how that changes things today. Here's Kelly Neiswanger coming forward, making her first career start today up front for the Terps. Ana Medina Garcia, who for the first time is starting in the back row for Northwestern defensively, likes to play defensively. We saw her step into that role after the early injury to Jehojnovic on Friday. And no surprise, Coach Tracy Fuchs keeps her there today. The rest of the defense mostly stays the same, and Chloe Relford steps in offensively, with Peyton Halsey moving to the middle of the field in her attacking midfield role.
The strategy for the Wildcats is this game draws closer and closer to the finish as it goes a little bit longer.
As Krause works it in, still free in front, stick handling around, and cannot find the angle. Can Margot Lawn, as you were saying, Matt?
The Wildcats want to move the ball around. As you said, only 3 subs. Very similar, actually, to what Penn State did against the Wildcats on Friday. Northwestern had about 5 times as many minutes from the bench as Penn State did. So if they can get this Maryland team moving around, get them tired, that should help them, especially as you creep into the 3rd and 4th quarters.
And with both teams coming off of big-time overtime wins, both exhilarating but also potentially emotionally and physically draining, to win those types of games against top 6 opponents, we'll see how that affects things as well. And a near miss there. Verleg almost had to go off her foot. Zimmer wants to look at it. A very early referral called for by the last year's NCAA player of the tournament. She thought it went off Verleg's foot. I have to say, live, I thought so as well. Saw Christina Calandra a lot earlier in the season, but Keft has earned that starting job since. Marshall looking for Bockers. Fires it in, and it's deflected in a goal. Keft's got a piece, couldn't get enough, and Benta Bockers has opened her account early in this one. Just 2 minutes and 51 seconds in, the Wildcats have a 1-0 lead. The ball, she gets a piece, but just into the top of the net. That's why that goal counts, by the way. Has to hit the baseboards unless it takes a meaningful deflection, and that one clearly did. It was going to go into the baseboards. So the goal for Bockers, by the way, brings her into 5th all-time. It's her 79th career goal, 5th all-time in Big Ten history with 79 scores. Her 18th of the season to lead all players in the nation. So the Wildcats get a penalty corner without having to work very hard for it and pay it off immediately. It's the first time in a matchup against a top 10 opponent this season that the Wildcats have tallied in the first quarter in their 4th time playing such a game. Van Root-Salar, coming off the 2 goals against Iowa, charged in, was met by 2. Maryland will play it back at the 25-yard line.
And Bockers' lead in goals in the nation is only going to get bigger. Second place right behind her was Hope Rose, who's currently out, and Daniela Rhodes, who plays for Liberty.
Oh, wow. Intentional play over the back line is called on Regan Cornelius. Big-time mistake by the Wildcat sophomore, and a corner right back for Maryland. And I think this is the right call. It did look as though Cornelius had no intention to try to play that away from the back line. We'll take another look here. It does look like she's knocking that over. That was the call, and Cornelius didn't argue it. I think that's a good – what did you see, Matt?
I think it's very similar. It's very similar to how Maryland, drew their penalty corner in overtime against Iowa. It was
Absolutely.
Van Root-Salar on that right side, forcing the defender into a mistake, exactly what she just did with Cornelius.
So if you're Northwestern, all eyes have to be on Van Root-Salar at the top. She scored 2 goals off of corners in that win over Iowa, including the game winner. The insert comes her way. Van Root-Salar tips in, and Maryland has responded in just over a minute. Not sure who they'll give that to officially. It certainly took a deflection, but it just bleeds past Annabelle Skubish, and we already have a 1-1 tie just 4 minutes and 4 seconds into the game.
And I don't even think that first shot from Van Rootselaar was on target. It wasn't a great shot, good set, and it just takes a huge deflection.
Yeah, massive deflection. I'm not sure. You still couldn't see on that angle who it touched. As we take one more look with Maryland coming forward in live action.
It might have been Kayla Blass on
It
that
might
right
have taken
side.
a touch off Kayla Blass. So as it stands right now, it looks like they'll give that goal to Van Rootselaar, which would be her third of the weekend off corners. Now Northwestern coming the other way. Zimmer was fouled from behind. What a start to this one, though, Matthew. And for two teams who pride themselves on their defense, this is not what we expected.
No, but it's also two teams that really work to get those penalty corners. That was Northwestern's 89th of the season, and Maryland right behind them, that was their 80th. So it's teams that are really working hard to get numbers forward and force the defenders into mistakes. Both teams do that, and both teams doing really well to capitalize.
But it is interesting. Both teams typically settle into the games more before they start their scoring. It's only the 8th goal of the season for Northwestern in the first quarter, and Maryland's 7th. Coming the other way, Sophie Clouts, early sub for the Terrapins. Zimmer works through a double team. Addie Zimmer, nearly run down, gets it ahead. Now Lane Herbert, and how about the mistake from the sophomore Reagan Cornelius that set up the chance for Maryland? It looms large right now. So Terps are only down for 65 seconds. Zimmer's pass is cut off before it got to Relford. Here's Clouts. Defended by Zimmer. Now surrounded by a cadre of Wildcat defenders. Terps able to work out of the danger for now. Donnelly on the near side. Just does connect with Van Rootselaar. Wildcats continuing to try to put pressure on this Terps defense as they try to pass out of their own end. We mentioned how it was the defensive mistake that led to the lone Iowa goal on Friday. Northwestern trying to potentially create another.
And I really like this movement so far from the Maryland back line. Verleg and Wright both working into the midfield to try and get on the ball and give their other defenders options going forward.
Hunter goes right off the ankle of DeBurdine. Wildcats continue ahead. Tough pass cannot be handled by Relford. Oh, nearly called the corner incorrectly. That would have been a certain referral for Maryland, but it did come off of Relford's foot instead. What a crazy start to this game. Not something anybody expected to see. 2 goals in the first 5 minutes. Now things seem to be settling down just a hair. Both penalty corner defenses have plenty to work on, that's for sure. Medina Garcia, long pass to nobody in particular. Clears the zone at least. We talked to Tracy Fuchs this morning. She mentioned how Maryland is a team that plays defense very unlike Iowa and Penn State, the last two opponents the Wildcats have faced. That high press man-to-man, which is different, of course, from Northwestern's own defense as well. They're more of a zonal marking scheme. Forces you to avoid mistakes with much more certainty than that zonal marking scheme does, but it also gives you more opportunity to take advantage of said mistakes. As Jones gets in the way of that pass attempt from Bressler. Here's Van Rootselaar. Spinning, shooting, and saved by Skubish.
And Fuchs said that defense is much more similar to what we saw from Liberty. And Northwestern really was able to just pick apart that Liberty team.
Yeah.
So hoping for some of the more success today for sure.
Low bridge going in was Kraus. Yeah, Kraus, former Duke star, transferred into Maryland. Has been a huge focal point in this offense. That time it was DeBurdine working on the far side again. Terps have forced the Wildcats back into a defensive shell. Here's Rain Wright. Pass couldn't find anybody.
And there's just so much talent on this Terrapins team. Leah Kraus, one of 3 national team players, alongside DeBurdine. As you take another look at this Skubish save, Van Rootselaar doing really well to try and get the backhand, but Annabelle Skubish Doing what we've seen her do all season, making big saves in big moments.
And Scooby's not necessarily a goalkeeper you want to challenge up high. She's very quick with those hands and those blockers. So Medina Garcia trying to look for an alleyway against this Maryland press. Goes down the middle for Zimmer. And Zimmer and Halsey not on the same page. Wright jumps the lane for the takeaway. And Katie Jones runs in front of her. Clearly had the ball come into her feet.
And that miscommunication could just come a little bit from the fact that Peyton Halsey traditionally so far this season has been more on the outside, but Tracy Fuchs having to move her into the middle to fill that hole left by Maya Zvojinovic that Anna Medina Garcia had to drop into the back for.
Absolutely. Maryland continues to pass it around the back. Nice find from Verleg to Donnelly. As Bressler tried to turn, she was met by Blass. Jones doubled, tried to work between the two of them. Did not get the whistle she was hoping for. Lawn towards Donnelly inside the circle. Blass with some nifty footwork to keep her feet out of the way of the ball. And then scoops it ahead to Jones, who can't control it. Terps putting the pressure on now, just under 10 minutes into this one. Early goals off the penalty corners. Essentially giving us a fresh start just 4 minutes in. Since then, the Terps have largely controlled the action. On the far side now. Sophie Clouds couldn't get it past the Wildcat defense. As we see her and Donrad exchanging passes there. Blass out of the back line. Northwestern has had trouble connecting to the midfield in the early going here. Hunter couldn't find Jones. And Jones illegally cuts off Van Rootselaar. She's sure the whistle's going her way, and she might see she's lucky to not see a card potentially for delay of game.
I think that's a good call from the official. Katie
I mean,
Jones.
she didn't see it. There was nothing intentional in it. Good to have patience. In the early going especially. Van Rootselaar working past Jones. And now away from Relford. She's been crucial in that midfield in the early going here. Pass inside, still free, and it did come off of Lawn. Some part of her body, it looked like. Maybe the backside of the stick, even. Either way, the whistle goes the Wildcats' way. Something we talked about in the build-up, Matt. Both of these teams have outshot their opponents in every single game they've played this season. These are two offenses that are accustomed to working and to having the ball in their possession for the majority of the game. So far, it's been the Maryland side that has been able to impose their will offensively, at least in terms of possession.
It's two very complete teams because we talk about their offenses, but they also have two very staunch defenses. Two of the defenses that, in my opinion, not just in the Big Ten, but also just in NCAA Division I, that are the hardest to break down. So one has to give.
Van Rootselaar obstructed there by Blass. Terps are certainly working hard to break down the Northwestern defense right now. She'll start from the 25. Right. Pass was deflected. Official didn't seem sure of what he wanted to call. 3 or 4 different hand motions there. Eventually ends Maryland taking it back where the pass was hit from. Deflected and through, still loose in front, and unable to track it down was Lawn.
It's a beautiful entry pass from Verleg, and I think it was Aaliyah Marshall just unable to clear the ball off the line, and a good chance for the Terrapins that they're just not able to get to.
Subs for the Wildcats. It's been a tough start for Katie Jones in the midfield. She's replaced by Cornelius, and Lane Herbert comes in for Chloe Relford. Zimmer gets to continue forward with Herbert in front along with Halsey. Bacher's to her left as well. Zimmer coaxing the ball through, firing, and it's saved, still loose. Did it go through? No, they say no. Halsey wants a referral. Peyton Halsey, I believe, thinks that ball crossed the line. Call stands. So the Wildcats lose their referral. The ball did not cross the goal line, say the officials, or at least they couldn't conclusively prove that it did. So Maryland holds defensively. And we'll see. And Maryland has possession as well. So what a job by Donnelly. We'll certainly get a defensive save in the stat sheet for her efforts. And the Wildcats inches away from a 2-1 lead. Instead, it stays even. And as we saw in Friday's game against Penn State, that early referral loss can be so crucial. See if it affects this one.
But you can't fault the Northwestern for wanting to
No, it's a goal on
challenge
the line, absolutely. It's not even just looking for a penalty corner. You're looking to change the
Absolutely.
score line. Donnelly, after making the huge play, is fouled.
And she and Van Rootselaar have just been all over the place so far. Northwestern really with no answer for either of the two of them, both on defense in the case of Donnelly and in the center with Van Rootselaar.
And they're going to stop the clock here. Lane Herbert is going to see a card. Northwestern's defense has been getting more and more aggressive, and she will see green, her second of the season, and will be out for the last minute plus of the first quarter, along with the first few seconds of the second. And Maryland take advantage. Pass is not a good one from BB Donrat. Did not hit it where she wanted to. Benta Bakker's trying to start the break with Halsey. Bakker's surrounded by Terp sticks. Works it off the foot of Van Rootselaar to get possession back. It's excellent stick work by Bakkers, who I think is still displeased over the lack of the goal overturn. Blast missed Wattis, who wasn't quite on the same page. 30 seconds to play now in the first quarter. Maryland coming through the middle now with Kraus. They look content to pass this one around as the final seconds tick off of the first quarter. It was an eventful one, no doubt about it. We saw two video referrals. One of them resulted in a penalty corner that scored Northwestern's first goal. One of them lost the Wildcats their referral and kept a goal off the board. A goal apiece.
Something similar happens. You want that referral, but you can't fault the Wildcats for wanting to get that goal and wanting to add that to their score sheet, especially given how close it was.
Again, it has to be said, Riley Donnelly has by herself saved a goal. We'll see how much that matters down the stretch as Bakkers charges ahead against Wright. Rain Wright did a phenomenal job of keeping that ball out of her feet. I'm not really sure how she did it. Maryland starts the other way. Medina Garcia is there to break it up. And a foul from behind by Van Rootselaar. Wright is so key in this back line for the Terps. She's been excellent today as well. Has consistently marked Benta Bakkers in this man-marking scheme for the Terrapins. The player guarding Bakkers is probably the most important defender on the pitch at almost all times. And, you know, outside of a corner when it's not really her responsibility in the same way, Wright has been phenomenal.
And that's the third time that we've seen a pass from the Northwestern midfield trying to go to this near side past the 23-meter line that the attacker just hasn't been on the same page as the person passing the ball that time. Katie Jones and Lauren Wattis, something that Northwestern will definitely have to figure out if they want to have some more success going forward.
Connection just has not been crisp, exactly like you said, Matt. And it's something they've struggled with for much of the season as well, but never quite as much as here. I think that man scheme is tripping them up just a little bit. A lot more off-ball movement required.
And I really do think that not having the crispness that Anna Medina Garcia possesses in terms of her passing in the midfield is a detriment to the Wildcats. And it's just unfortunate that Zvojinovic was hurt in the game against Penn State.
Yeah, it hurts more than just the defense, that's for sure. Daly. Daly told off by the official. Couldn't hear exactly what was said there. But that was a long blast of the whistle. Green card long since expired, by the way, for Herbert. These teams back to even strength with 13 minutes to play in the first half. Verleg gets past Zimmer, who was gambling. Great pass inside, and Medina Garcia is up to the task. Ana Medina Garcia does an excellent job of dispossessing Kylie Neiswanger. And another potential chance for the Terps goes by the wayside. Zimmer goes for the lift, missed it. Neiswanger controls it going the other way. She was caught up for a second. Van Rootselaar had her pass deflected, and Marshall eventually takes it away. Haven't called Aaliyah Marshall's name much today. Haven't gotten her in the action all that much, but here's an excellent pass down the sideline to Katie Jones. Jones tracked down by Van Rootselaar. Jones can't get inside. And the Dutch native Van Rootselaar gets the better of the English native in Jones.
And the defending coverage from the Terps behind the Maryland person pressing, who I believe was Van Rootselaar, there were 5 of them inside of Northwestern's shooting circle.
Yeah.
So if she had been beaten, the Terps just do such a good job at covering behind the pressing person. And that time really wouldn't have created a problem had Katie Jones been able to get behind Van Rootselaar.
And when we compare that Maryland defense to the Liberty defense, it's in scheme alone. I mean, last season, Liberty obviously had their defense at firing on all cylinders as Kraus charges in. Pass blast, shoots and saved. Still loose in front. And not a second opportunity available to Kylie Neiswanger. Van Rootselaar. Can't get past Daly initially. Surrounded by Wildcat sticks. Trying to get through them, and she can't. Going back to what I'm talking about, the Liberty defense this year, which as you mentioned, Northwestern carved up, it just doesn't have the same talent level and quite the same ability level on the defensive end that this Maryland team has. They know this system. They've been playing in it for their entire careers. And it's been an impressive one so far this season.
And it will be interesting to see how North Carolina takes on that Liberty defense, because Northwestern does not play North Carolina in their conference, in their out-of-conference schedule. I believe Maryland did already lose to North Carolina.
No, they have not played them either.
They have not played them.
Yeah, they lost to Princeton was their one loss.
So it'll be interesting to see how North Carolina attacks that sort of defense, given that this matchup will be coming up. And you have to imagine that these two teams, Maryland and North Carolina, will face each other in the ACC tournament.
Let's take another look at that save. Read all the way by Skubish, but a good opportunity by Kraus. Trying to go back to the far side. You see Benta Bacher score a lot of her goals that way here in Evanston. Kraus was cut off. I'm sure Skubish has seen it plenty of times in practice. Let's just say that. Maddie Zimmer. Looking for Halsey. Wow, what a job by Van Rootselaar to run that down and deflect it out. Halsey. Greta Hinkie newly on, couldn't connect to it. Van Rootselaar, who has done everything Maryland could have asked for her really all weekend long, but especially today, gets possession again. We're looking at Danielle Van Rootselaar. She transfers from Brown, a team that she was the best player on by a significant margin. It's not a team that contends in the Ivy League very often, typically Penn and Princeton, the two top dogs there. And she comes here to Maryland, immediate national prominence, and she has shown up in every way that matters. You know, midfielder standing at 6'0". She's just an imposing presence out there on the field.
And you look for players, especially as the season starts to get closer and closer to the conference tournament and then the national tournament, for players that can step up when you need them most. And in the worst case scenario, in terms of injury, that's exactly what Van Rootselaar has done. Been the best player for a Maryland team by a mile in these past 2 games, in this game so far, and against Iowa, in the absence of Hope Rose.
And remember, for Van Rootselaar, it's only the 9th game she's participated in. We don't have any additional details as to why she missed those first 3 games. But she's only played in 9 out of their 12 contests herself. She's so quickly grown into her role with this team. Verleg. Out to right. Rain Wright coming forward for one of the first times today. Into the circle. Wright gets the corner all by herself. Medina Garcia doesn't understand the call. She's asking for clarification. No referral left, but she doesn't understand why the officials awarded the corner to Maryland. Let's take another look here. Wright working past Cornelius initially. And there's no foot contact there that I can see. Maybe obstruction called. I'm questioning the decision there from the official.
It's great work from Rain Wright. She's only missed 6 minutes all season long. And just to get into the attack there, as we saw earlier, Verleg was doing it this time coming on the right side. And I'm in agreement with you, Noah. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but regardless, Maryland has another penalty corner.
Note for Northwestern, Marshall is on the sideline. She just got subbed out, so Greta Hinke in as a flyer for what I believe is the first time all season. Big role for Hinke. She's going to have to come out up top. Going against Van Rootselaar, who misses wide. And they actually switched roles a little bit so that Shannon Daly was the lead flyer, typically Marshall, but Daly did enough to dissuade the shot from Van Rootselaar, or potentially the pass. I'm not sure if she was looking on that far side to reattach with Leah Krause. But either way, Maryland cannot pay off their second corner of the contest. 7:50 to go in the first half, still 1-1. Maryland has had the majority of the chances. Northwestern has probably had the better chances overall. But here's a big-time takeaway from Margot Lawn. Blast trying to cover it up behind. Lauren Hunter gets in there from up top. Lawn goes down, no whistle, and it's kicked away harmlessly in the end by Skubish. Connolly. And now Wright will reset things with Herbert at the top of the Northwestern press, limited as it may be. Pensa Bockers has played many more minutes in the early going than she typically does, as a misplay by Donnelly gives it back to Northwestern. She's looked like she has energy today. Haven't mentioned this yet, but Northwestern has won their last 3 against Maryland, including a 3-1 victory last year. Bockers and Zimmer both tallied in that contest. Excellent defensive play that time by Bressler. Most of the players who are on both teams today or on both teams in that one. Wildcats only losing 2 from their starting lineup. Maryland's reconfigured their starting group a little bit with some transfers and some graduated players. A lot of the key players from that team are here as well, although Hope Rose, of course, watching in street clothes. Donnelly with some fancy stick work. Can't connect with Lawn successfully. Cornelius finds Zimmer. That's an excellent defensive play by DeBurdine. Cutting it off before it got to Wattis. Bressler, who's seen a lot of time in this first half, gets by Marshall. Looking to the middle, that's a dangerous ball, absolutely. Nearly hit Medina Garcia in the temple.
And it's not very often that someone's able to get by Aaliyah Marshall, aided partially by the fact that the ball was bouncing, and also a contributing reason as to why she wasn't able to get that ball down and why it ended up being called dangerous, going in favor of the Wildcats.
Even though Maryland has a lot of their best players on that left side of their attack, they have gone to the right side a lot. And that is, it tells you a lot about Aaliyah Marshall. It's a burst of speed to cut that off by Verleg. Maryland has looked so quick defensively. It's really helped them. Lauren Hunter tries to start the attack again. Oh, big swing. Comes up empty. Advantage played. Wattis whips it. Save made. A chance for Lauren Wattis. Paige Keft comes up big. Goalkeeping has been a bit of a question for Maryland at times this year, as Wattis coming in towards the circle again. Now it goes the other way. Mentioned Keft took over that starting job in the middle of the season. She started 8 games now in her sophomore year. Allowed 11 goals with only 16 saves. It certainly hasn't been the Terrapins' strong suit. Let's just say that much.
And Coach Mahark hasn't been afraid in previous years to put in goalkeepers by committee. And that's something that Christina Calandra, who has been replaced by Paige Keft, didn't really have to deal with. She sat behind current assistant coach Noelle Frost for 3 years. So it was really before her time.
Right.
So
I was going to say Frost had that starting job locked down.
Absolutely.
That's one of those key graduating players that we mentioned from last year's Maryland team.
So Christina Calandra, given the chance to fight for her spot, and in the end,
just missing was Lawn there, sprawling out to try to get on the end of that pass from Donrat. Continue.
Calandra just being outplayed by Paige Keft, and Calandra didn't play. She played great in the first 2 games, didn't allow any games, and then just struggled a little bit. Gave up 4 goals against Boston College, Duke, and Harvard, 4 total, and Paige Keft hasn't given up the starting spot since. Yeah,
and those Drexel and Stanford, not the same caliber of opponents as those last 3 you mentioned. Harvard establishing themselves as an Ivy League contender this year, and Keft came on as Bacher's saying something impolite as she couldn't maintain control there. Subs for Maryland. Bressler comes off again. We see Sophie Clouts come back on. Here's Donrat. Working past Cornelius, who fouled her, certainly, yeah. It was a potential advantage play on there. Instead, Maryland will regroup. Clouts. Past Cornelius again. Halsey's there defensively. Connects with Zimmer. Could the Wildcats be out the other way? The speed of DeBurdine was such a deterrent there from the backside. It's so rare that you see Maddie Zimmer get run down like that in the open field. But Bacher's able to get it back off of right. Zimmer wants to go right all the way. DeBurdine read it. That midfield battle continues apace. Kraus gets past on Medina Garcia. Options in the middle for Leah Kraus. Shoots it herself instead. It's blocked by Blast. Still free. The shot is wide. Clouts was looking to get on the scoreboard there. The game is starting to open up a little bit more with 2.5 to go in the first half.
It is, and Northwestern trying to build out of that last play. Didn't have any depth. Benta Bacher's was in their defensive half. Now you see her really past the 23-meter line. And something that Northwestern has really tried to do all season long is try to keep her going forward to give their team an option, an outlet, to get their passes out and to clear their lines. And that time, not able to do it and allowing for a Maryland counterattack.
Bacher's against Wright. Fakes, goes, and Wright is there. Bacher's has her stick snapped out of her hands. Right ahead for Kraus. Marked by Medina Garcia. Tries to go through her and does. Kraus to the middle. Centers it back. Turning, shooting, and it's saved. Off of lawn again, Skubish up to the task.
And this is exactly why Leah Kraus was on the women's national team. Just making absolute piecework out of Ana Medina Garcia and then finding a completely open Margot Lawn. But again, Annabelle Skubish keeping the Wildcats in this game.
She's had a great start to this one, has Skubish. The deflected goal off the first penalty corner from Maryland aside. She has dealt with everything that's come her way without giving up any good rebounds either. Donrat loses it over the end line, and it was not touched. 75 seconds and counting to play here in the second quarter. Wildcats at this point almost looking to get the chance to go to the locker room and regroup. After their early goal and then the chance late in the first quarter, it's been almost all Maryland. Medina Garcia has the pass deflected, but it gets through to Cornelius eventually. This midfield battle has been by and large won by Maryland so far. Wattis trying to carve through. Marshall looking to go back to Wattis or maybe Halsey. Can't connect with either. Halsey probably fouled Van Rootselaar there, no call. It's going to be Maryland ball either way.
And Maryland's having more success because they're drawing their outside mids more into the middle. You see Margot Lawn coming in, trying to get that numbers advantage, and the Wildcats either not noticing or just not recognizing that they have to drag in Peyton Halsey. They have to bring in Katie Jones, whoever is on the outside, to try and get back that superiority in the middle.
That's what makes it tough when you got new configurations at midfield. It's going to take Northwestern a little while to get into their sets the same way as they did when Ana Medina Garcia was holding things together up in that attacking midfield role. Time ticks down here in this first half, and that'll do it. The Wildcats are getting set to take on the Terps here in this second half. Two teams have switched sides, of course, with Maryland going north to south, Northwestern moving south to north. You see Bacher's has been such a key factor in this team's offense all year long, but Maryland, since that corner goal, has really taken her out of the game. And Matt, I want to go back to a stat we referenced in the first quarter. Maryland and Northwestern have each outshot their opponents in every game this season. Well, first half, Maryland 8 shots, Northwestern 3.
Northwestern's really struggling to get chances in the run of play. Benta Bacher's has been in positions to receive the ball, but they've really struggled just trying to find her feet, find her stick. And I think, as I mentioned earlier in the first half, a lot of it has to do with Ana Medina Garcia, and you need players to step up in the midfield to try and look forward, and they just haven't had that yet today.
And we don't want to take any credit away from Maryland, who has done a fantastic job of breaking up that defense to offense transition that Northwestern's typically so good at. As Van Rootselaar draws a foul and now charges in past Katie Jones. Nearly fouled her. Van Rootselaar continues. Still got it on her stick. And finally able to win it away from her was Kayla Blass, who has often been the last line of defense in a crucial way for Northwestern today. She's been charged with doing a lot of the dirty work behind the scenes defensively, and she's been up to that challenge so far. Shot fired by Clouts is saved by Skubish, still loose. Van Rootselaar now. She shoots, and it's saved again. Skubish just got to it. If that wasn't going in, Donrat was there on the back post to tip it in. Excellent stop by Annabelle Skubish once more. She has been up to the challenge just about every time Maryland has asked it of her. Her best game of the year so far. Up to 6 saves now. Junior goalie out of Texas. Blast had that one tipped over her head. Medina Garcia will kickstart things for the Wildcats. And just not on the same page with Wattis. And that was a rare chance for Northwestern to exert their will offensively. And it's like we've been talking about, that connection just hasn't been there as we take one more look at that last save from Skubish.
It's brilliant stick work from Donrat, but if Northwestern is able to pull this game out, every single player on this pitch at the moment needs to buy Annabelle Skubish lunch, because she has single-handedly kept the Wildcats from being dominated by the Terps.
Katie Jones down behind the play here. She's getting up slowly. I think it just came off her awkwardly. Did not look good initially, but she's back up and in it now. And now Maryland coming the other way. Here's Lawn. Margot Lawn charging in against Marshall. She's got options in the middle, looking for Clouts in there. Game off the foot of Aaliyah Marshall, and that will be a third penalty corner chance for Maryland.
Clouts found herself in so much space here on that near sideline, and then just really forcing Aaliyah Marshall into a dangerous position on her back foot and just playing it off.
Playing it off the
Margot
foot
Lawn,
there.
pardon, yeah. Just doing really well to find herself a little bit of space and then force it into an immediate attack for Maryland, and forcing Northwestern once again on their heels.
And she has been an option on the near post for Maryland in each of their 2 corners so far that they've looked to go to. This time it's up top for Kraus. She dribbles and did so illegally. I think covered the ball up as she was turning it over there. So Kraus gets a bit too fancy, and Maryland loses a chance. Halsey gets caught up. Bit contentious there between Halsey and Fichter, whose name we haven't called too often.
And that just doesn't feel like a smart call from Maryland. You have Van Rootselaar, who's playing absolutely out of her mind at the moment, and you've had some incredible success. 3 penalty corner goals in the last 2 games, just with straight shots. You don't have to play around with it like you did there.
Yeah.
And in the end, just wasting a chance.
Now, to be fair, you have to think Northwestern's corner defense is keyed on Van Rootselaar's shots as of right now.
And you would imagine that coming into this game, and she was still able to score.
Well, she was able to score with the help of a significant deflection, but you're not wrong. Just playing a little devil's advocate on the part of Coach Maharg, who certainly doesn't need me to do it for her. 35th year helming the Terps. And Coach Maharg started, she was such a young coach when she first got going. That's why she's been able to do it for so many years and keep and stay as fresh with the times as a coach. She began just 2 years after graduating from Delaware. One of the youngest head coaches in the history of the sport. She was 24 when she got the head job initially with Maryland. It was a different time in the late 80s, of course, for field hockey. But still, I mean, the amount she's been able to grow even within this job is incredible, as Halsey is fouled and then has it taken away immediately by DeBurdine. I just think that Halsey was looking for a call that she wasn't going to get there, and now Maryland comes the other way. Van Rootselaar charging on Medina Garcia, and she's obstructed. Another corner chance for Maryland. And going back to that play by Halsey, I think she was trying to get a similar call of being defended too closely by DeBurdine, but DeBurdine wasn't the one who had committed the initial foul. And that turnover led Maryland into the attacking zone and led Van Rootselaar to draw the corner.
And you have to play to the whistle. But again, another penalty corner drawn by Daniela Van Rootselaar.
It's DeBurdine to insert again. This time they swing Van Rootselaar around closer, and they go her way. Van Rootselaar shoots and is saved by Skubish. Annabelle Skubish up to the challenge once again. Van Rootselaar tried to get tricky, faked it short side, went far side. Skubish had it read the whole way. She kicks that one out. That won't count as a save. Wouldn't have been eligible to be scored anyways from outside the circle. 7 stops from Annabelle Skubish. As you see this look for Van Rootselaar again. She's trying to find that far corner. Skubish has just been too quick all day. Whipped in and stopped by Blast. These are the kind of games that Skubish had in that lead up to the NCAA championship last year. At times it just seemed like everything was going against Northwestern. Skubish made a couple stops, and eventually the Wildcats were able to turn the tide. Now that part is the part they're going to have to execute today. For now, Maryland looks like they're still in full control. Lifted over the top, and Medina Garcia, she could have just let it run. Plays it safe, stops it, gets it to Hunter. Now Greta Hinkie working against DeBurdine and gets by her. Hinkie earns the foul on DeBurdine, and it's going to be a green card. It's the first time that she has picked up a green card this season, and Greta Hinkie, the true first year, does something no Wildcat has been able to do all game, and that's beat DeBurdine in the midfield. That should change a lot, not just Maryland being down a player, but being down such an important player, and right as I say that, they take the ball away for 2 minutes. DeBurdine will be out.
But you mentioned such an important player. These are the 2 minutes where Northwestern has to find a way to get the ball into the shooting circle. They have to give Benta Balkers chances, and you do it by now you do have a player up in the midfield, and you just have to be able to find something while Emma DeBurdine is out.
Maryland passing it around beautifully right now. Fichter heads back to Verleg, the countrywoman. Connecting there. And then Donnelly down the line for Van Rootselaar. Carving around this Wildcat defense right now. Van Rootselaar continues in. Shoots! Just wide. Danielle Van Rootselaar looking as dangerous as ever coming forward. Once again, the Wildcats escape.
It feels a little bit like Harry Houdini picked up a field hockey stick and decided he wanted to play this afternoon. The way that Danielle Van Rootselaar has just been able to magically find space.
And bad news for Maryland. She has come off and she's behind the bench. Stretching out. Danielle Van Rootselaar, we'll keep an eye on that. She's been so good today. Hopefully just a minor thing. And here is another foul that causes the clock to be stopped and will result in a card coming out. And this time it's Reagan Cornelius who's being sent to the sideline. Oh, no! The referee calls it the other way. Everybody on the field thought that was going against Cornelius, and instead Natalie Fichter has been called for her 3rd green card worthy foul. Nope, he switched it, I guess. Both. No, Cornelius is still on the field. She's still on the field. I don't understand what the call is. He's called a foul on Cornelius and a green card on Fichter. That seems like the worst of both worlds to me. And suddenly Northwestern is up 2 players. Somebody's going to have to explain that one to me.
Up 2 players for the next minute, and Danielle Van Rootselaar is off the field. You cannot make up better circumstances for the Wildcats.
That's going to be a no? Yes. Wow. I don't. And Maryland immediately calls for the referral. It did look to me like Wattis had lifted that ball into the Maryland defender. This past 30 seconds has been an experience in the referee's whistle, that's for sure.
And I'm still hung up a little bit on how...
How could you not be?
How it wasn't double green cards. How it wasn't...
Donnelly took care of that one. Outside of that, I mean, they really haven't had anything going their way offensively since the first quarter. Excellent piece of stick work by Neiswanger. And if nothing else, buys Maryland enough time to kill the first green card off. DeBurdine is back on the field. With 6:45 to go in this 3rd quarter, and immediately she's back in on the action. 3 green cards given out in this game so far. all to Terrapins. Northwestern has not been able to capitalize on any. Hunter. Lauren Hunter. So you hear the stick-to-stick crack. Ball continues around to Daly. Daly looking to get by Kraus, just couldn't do it. And now to Burdine. Bressler called for it, got it, dealt it out. Donrat's cut off. Raising her hand for a foul, didn't get it. But that time Blast did get in the path of her backswing, I should say.
And Shannon Daly just has to be a little bit careful. She's been coming to the right side when Aaliyah Marshall has been stepping off. And they've given Lauren Hunter the opportunity to sit there at that left back position, but she really likes to come forward. And the way that Maryland is playing, they're leaving one or two players in behind her. And that time you saw that one of them was able to get the ball and come in behind her, but doing a really good job was Kayla Blass, able to cover up BB Dunrow.
So DeBurdine has it bleed off her foot, and then Relford was coming forward, and Wright was up to the task once again. Rain Wright continues a spectacular day in defense for Maryland, but the Wildcats get the ball back as the penalty has been killed off. And Fichter comes back onto the field. That was the first time she's been off all game, by the way. Focal point in that defense for Maryland. They've kept that defense intact today with Fichter, Wright, and Verleg. None have left the field yet. I don't believe Donnelly has either. And why would you? They've been great in the run of play.
And I think this is really a clinic in how to swallow up this Northwestern defense. You just completely cover the midfield in players in Northwestern, just unable to really find a way through. They're not doing good on using their width. Again, missing Medina Garcia.
Right.
But
it's funny because Maryland hasn't even put that many players in there. It's just DeBurdine is so quick. She's all over the place. And so is Van Rootselaar. Here comes Zimmer, gets by one. Maddie Zimmer inside and was obstructed, certainly. And Leah Kraus gives out the penalty corner. And just like that, Northwestern's back in business. That's what having a first-team All-American in your midfield can do for you. Bakkers and Zimmer the options in the middle for Marshall to insert. Medina Garcia sets for Bakkers. Not a great insertion, and the shot is blocked. Wildcats were a bit out of sorts. Medina Garcia had to shift to stop the ball, and Donnelly able to block the shot with relative ease. Not the corner Northwestern was hoping for.
No, the insertion wasn't good, but the Terps didn't fly out quick enough either.
Turning in the middle. And Halsey can't get a shot away, but Wattis can, and it's stopped in front by Verleg. Verleg. Surrounded by Northwestern players and commits the infraction. Relford charging quickly against Wright. Gets it in, through everybody, still free in front, but working it away is Van Rootselaar. How about a player that's been all over? And now she's looking in front for Lawn, but Marshall read it. Lawn was nearly free. Now Daly the other way instead. Halsey trying to get through Donnelly and can't. Wattis fouls her. And once again, Riley Donnelly making it happen on the back end. Papers flying onto the field. Oh boy. The referee's going to have to put a stop to this one. Wind's starting to pick up a bit here at Lakeside Field as the cloud cover begins to lessen as well. Gorgeous Sunday afternoon in Evanston. The lake behind us. Beautiful shades of blue and green. It's an excellent place to play field hockey. Taking towards 3 minutes to play in this third quarter. Still tied at 1 as we have been since there were 10:56 remaining in the first. Oh, Wattis can't believe that she's been whistled there. Fichter gets the better of that exchange. DeBurdine. And now Van Rootselaar. Off the deflection, finds Krauts. Sophie Krauts. The whistle comes from the outside. Maryland's going to get it back right at the edge of the circle here with Krauts. Looking outside and goes outside. Bakkers can't get to the pass. Donnelly. Cross is deflected by Daly, and we'll be back to the 25-yard mark. Clock stopped for a second with 2 balls on the field. 2:16 to go in this third quarter. Wildcats have had a bit of a chance uptick as of late. Maryland has had the bulk of the chances in this third quarter, but only a couple really premium ones, 1 or maybe 2. Overall, Northwestern's defense has done a good job, even though it seemed at times like the Terrapins have been carving them up. They've kept Maryland out of really dangerous situations for the most part. Donnelly's pass easily handled by Blass. With Krause on her back. And Blass, I think, just did a good job to get it away there. She was never going to be able to connect with Cornelius. The way the Terps had her defended. And that team speed for Maryland is just really showing up right now.
It really is. Their defenders, their midfielders, every single player on this team just feels absolutely rapid. And it's really hurting Northwestern, especially on the counterattack, just getting chance after chance. And the Wildcats just can't defend. They can't get back in time.
We mentioned with Van Rootselaar and de Burdijn specifically how quickly they're able to cut off Northwestern opportunities. But it really is throughout this roster, absolutely right. Or at least throughout the roster, the part of the roster that we've seen on the field. Van Rootselaar skids around Cornelius and is blocked off on her way to the circle by Daly, illegally. 60 seconds to go in the third quarter. Wildcats trying to close out a solid defensive effort in this 15-minute segment. Call goes against Daly again. Van Rootselaar to the edge of the circle, turning with Blass on her back and Cornelius as well. She still got it along the end line, Van Rootselaar, and she's whistled. And on the restart, a near giveaway, and Bakkers commits the infraction. Blass went a bit too quick there. Chance is not over for Maryland. Consternation for the Northwestern crowd, but that was a pretty easy call. Donnelly, pass deflected, still loose. Bressler, now Krause, and it came off Blass's leg, but high. Illegally lifted by Krause, and the Wildcats come the other way with still time. Herbert and Zimmer with Bakkers trying to come join the party. Now Marshall with 10 on the clock. Aaliyah Marshall around right. Still has it. And de Burdijn gets there before Halsey. What a third quarter. This has been every inch of a top 5 matchup so far. Number 2 Northwestern against number 4 Maryland has lived up to the billing. 1-1 as we begin the fourth. Jones for Halsey. With Relford coming, didn't see her, goes back to Wattis instead. Wattis to the edge of the box, shoots, deflected, just wide, corner given. Oh, wow. Out of nowhere, the Wildcats immediately earned the fourth quarter's first corner. And it's set for Jones. She passes. Oh, wow. Trying to spin was Halsey. That would have been a very interesting deflection, but her shot goes wide instead.
Just choosing to not involve Bakkers whatsoever in that one as they...
Only as a decoy.
Exactly. And that's what you can do with her. She scores them a lot. So you try to move it around. That time Peyton Halsey, as you said, would have been quite the spectacular goal if she was able to put that ball in the back of the cage.
The pass from Jones just wasn't where it needed to be. It was too far behind Halsey. And after the diving stop by Wattis, Maryland continues forward anyways. Lawn has her pass picked off by Wattis. Muscling up against Van Rootselaar. And here is Zimmer. Whips it all the way across. And a nice stop with the thin part of the stick by Verleg. Working against Relford, has it taken away, but the delayed foul goes against Relford. And after that initial Northwestern chance, we're back to Maryland in control for now. Wildcats content to sit back for the time being. They have looked dangerous at times in the counter. Those times have been relatively few and far between. Zimmer goes to the ground. Krause around her, trying to get past Blass, runs her over, no whistle. Now turning is Clouts. She wanted a corner and gets it. As usual, de Burdijn to take the corner. They've moved Van Rootselaar to the short side again. Similar play setup. And a whistle on the entry. False start on Maryland, it looks like. They're calling somebody for coming into the circle too early. Yeah, it's a mistake on the insertion by DeBurdine.
And we saw
Grinning
this
Riley as she jogs away. Yeah, we saw it with Northwestern against Liberty.
Times earlier in the season.
And Will Byrne told us after the game that Liberty had told the referees to look for something. I think that was a bit different. They go short again. Van Rootselaar passes across. Kraus saved by initially, and then it's in. No, and now it is. No goal given. A corner instead called. No goal was given. Instead, it's a corner.
And Noah, this is, if that had counted, this is where I think that referral really comes in huge, because that Maryland player, I believe, might have been Leah Kraus.
Well, Kraus takes the shot there. It's deflected.
It comes off
her body.
Dunrat.
But what the call was there was a corner. There was a violation by Northwestern before it came off the body of Donrat. That's why the goal wasn't given. It would have been given regardless, but it wasn't a legal goal. Shot stopped initially by Marshall. Van Rootselaar spinning, turning, shooting, deflected, still loose in front. Medina Garcia's got to get it out of danger, and she does, but lifts it, and it's another corner. Northwestern by the skin of their teeth hanging on to a tie score. But Maryland will get their 7th corner of the contest.
And it's tough when you have so many defenders around you, and Ana Medina Garcia, really the only chance she had.
Yeah, she's just trying to get it out of there. She doesn't want to play it over the end line intentionally and earn another corner that way. I don't think she was meaning to lift it, but she's just surrounded by Maryland sticks. It's Donrat to insert again. And they go for, this time, Donnelly. Her first shot is stopped in front, and finally the Wildcats clear the danger. Looking to counter now, but the pass is a poor one from Katie Jones. That was a prime opportunity for Northwestern to start things the other way, and they couldn't. Still plenty of time in regulation here. 11:50 for this game to be decided without resorting to overtime. DeBurdine waits for the second defender to come. Stick handling away from Relford, gets it to Verleg. Wildcats putting pressure now. Verleg, nifty moves to get around, and Wattis too dangerous. A yellow card for Lauren Wattis. 5-minute yellow card, and that is something Northwestern could not afford. The second yellow of the season for Lauren Wattis. She just comes in too aggressively. And I think she was a bit frustrated, but it's going to cost Northwestern here. 11 on 10 for the Terps, starting at about 11:30 on the clock. So with 6.5 minutes left is the next time we'll be at even strength. Can the Wildcats hold the Terps off until then? Fichter works it back around to right. Now Verleg. DeBurdine turning, past Halsey. Stopped up by Bockers, who did some good work defensively there. Certainly not known for that aspect of her game, but she's had a couple nice plays to stop up transitions today. Kraus on the near side, over Medina Garcia, still moving all the way through with no takers. Van Rootselaar was waiting on the other end. Cornelius got to it first. Now Klaus works it all the way inside, on the stick in front of Donrat. And it's out off of Northwestern without a corner being given.
And you mentioned Benta Bockers not being known for the defensive side of the game, but the Wildcats have really no choice. Every single player so far dropped behind that 23-meter line just to try and stave off this 5-minute shorthand that they are currently playing under.
It's a long time to get through. Another pass comes in, that time from Verleg. Cornelius, who's been great in this quarter, did well to stop that one. It was Cornelius's mistake in playing the ball out of bounds that led to the Maryland goal off the corner. She's acquitted herself really well since some struggles in the first quarter, but Northwestern can't get it out of their own end again. Herbert was up top as the potential relief. Instead, Maryland settles in. 2 minutes gone out of the 5. Donrat, taken away by Marshall. Nifty move, and Marshall waiting. Could have just cleared it all the way through. Instead, she wants to build some possession here. Zimmer Has it knocked out of bounds by Kraus. Hard to overstate how much of a coup it was for Maryland to get Kraus from Duke, one of the most sought-after transfers in the country. She opted to come to College Park. And has paid benefits so far this season for Maryland. Near giveaway, and it is a giveaway. Clouts, oh, it came off her body. Lucky break for Peyton Halsey tracking back. Not careful enough with that pass, Medina Garcia. And now Maryland comes the other way anyway. Donrat turning, shooting, blocked by the face of Kayla Blass. Very similar play that we saw against Maddie Zimmer. And Blass just going to walk it off. Let's take another look at that. Donrat. Yeah, that's right off the temple. I mean, goodness gracious. And they're going to give the corner. I don't think that's the right call when Northwestern doesn't have a referral left. DeBurdine back to insert. Kraus dribbling around again. Passes to Van Rootselaar through, and unable to redirect was Lawn on the back end. Margot Lawn had the opportunity at the doorstep, couldn't control it. Northwestern escapes again. Let's look at this pass one more time for Van Rootselaar. Takes a deflection before it gets to Lawn. It was initially a shot. Blass knocked it askew. Cornelius against Kraus, works it down the sideline. And it was not deflected. Just did well to get it out of her own end there, really. 3.5 minutes elapsed on the 5-minute penalty for Lauren Wattis. Wildcats trying to hang on. 18-7, the shot total for Maryland. They forced Annabelle Skubish into a season-high 10 saves. But there's a rare mistake from Natalie Fichter. Can the Wildcats capitalize? Still a minute to go on the penalty. Marshall taking her time. And now Medina Garcia. Back to Marshall. Aaliyah Marshall. Defended initially, gets back in. Marshall has her pass blocked. Official was looking to potentially call a corner. And then Marshall slipped past right, but couldn't get past the second effort of BB Donrat. Some great work by Aaliyah Marshall, but couldn't turn it into anything tangible. Maryland pressing high. Marshall again. Walls off Donrat, turning against Donrat, gets over her stick. Marshall, and it's saved. Back to Relford, she couldn't control it. Pass inside deflected through to Bockers. And a whistle in favor of Northwestern, I guess, on the initial pass from Relford, just on the outside of the circle. Relford is going to take it back for a second and play to Marshall. And Northwestern will settle things down. The penalty is elapsing right about now for Wattis, and she's coming on.
And all things considered, they did a really good job at killing off those 5 minutes. Apart from the one chance, the one that came off Caleb Blass's face, they did really well, especially here in the last 2 or so minutes of forcing Maryland to defend and just trying to get those seconds to tick off the clock.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Fichter goes to ground, and then the referee rules that she obstructed the play after the fact and gives a penalty corner from about as far out as you'll ever see it. Wow, that is a bad, bad break for Natalie Fichter and Maryland. To Bockers in the middle again. Fires deflected high, and that is a phenomenal job from guess who? Rain Wright, flying out and taking the angle away from Benta Bockers. Deflected through, and that one did not take a touch inside the circle. I thought for a second it had, but it was touched just outside the circle by Kraus. So it wouldn't have mattered either way. But Northwestern gets it back at the 25-yard line with 5.5 to go. Most extended run of Northwestern pressure we've seen all game long. Blass slips it through. Loose in front for Bockers. Turning, doubled, scoops it off a Maryland player and earns the corner. That is what Benta Bockers does, but they're going to look for a referral. Again, did the ball touch the Maryland player? Did it come off the stick? You could see there, great work by the camera person, Van Rootselaar, motioning to the shaft of the stick, saying it hit there, not the body. Nope, Maryland gets the call they wanted. So Maryland retains their referral again. 2 successful referrals by the Maryland defense in this second half. And a crucial one there takes a penalty corner away from the Cats. Again, I think on balance, that's the right call. It's hard to argue with the call in general.
And a couple of key things there. You avoid a Northwestern penalty corner in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and maybe even bigger if this game does go into overtime. You want that referral, and that's something that Northwestern does not have.
Yeah.
And now with 2 successful challenges, Maryland has been able to keep that.
Big time on multiple dimensions, as you mentioned. Scooped inside. It looked like it came off the foot of Marshall. No call. Still loose. DeBurdine fires from well outside. Wouldn't have mattered. That was going almost too fast for Don Rat to deflect it, which is what she was looking for. Beach does well to just let it roll. No reason to try to send that one back out into the muck. Scrum, probably a better term than muck. Either way, you get what I'm saying. As Menina Garcia clears the area. 4:30. What a roller coaster ride this game has been, if not on the scoreboard as the Penn State Northwestern game was on Friday, certainly equally as much so on the field. Legs tangling there between Daly and Bressler as they attack that ball. And I think a good no call on a foul there. Instead, it just goes out of bounds for Maryland possession. Verleg. Dispossessed illegally. Katie Jones can't believe it. Neither can Wattis. Northwestern's got no referral left. They're asking for an explanation from the official. There's nothing they can do about it either way. Let's take another look. Ooh, wow. Wattis is clean for sure on that. I guess they must be calling some other form of obstruction that we couldn't quite see from that angle with a stick as the ball was entering the circle. And now the 9th Maryland opportunity on a corner. They scored on their first. Northwestern's held them out on the next 7. They go back to their typical situation with Van Rootselaar up top. The ball's for Kraus instead. Fires! Deflected away by Wattis. Put her body on the line right there. That one might have been low enough to hit the baseboards. Lauren Wattis, the only thing standing between Maryland and a 2-1 lead.
And you see Lauren Wattis just hanging out back there, doing extremely well. Ball had gotten past Annabelle Skubish, but Wattis holding firm, able to deflect that ball out.
Just another phenomenal play by this Northwestern defense. When they have been called upon in crucial moments, they have delivered. Skubish at the forefront, of course, but the rest of the defense has each had 1 or 2 great plays as well. Van Rootselaar again, charging in, working on Blass and Jones. And it's deflected off the end line by Jones. They called a foul before the ball got there, right on the edge of the circle. Jones and Blass have to give Van Rootselaar the 5 feet of space. She does not attempt to use it. Pass comes off the foot of Wattis. Advantage played for now. Van Rootselaar spinning, shooting, deflected out, and actually just hit off the side of the net. No deflection. That was an almost impossible angle to score from. The Wildcats get the ball back. 2:45 to go. How quickly this game can turn. Suddenly Maryland is right back to looking like the aggressor they've been for much of the contest.
And we've played 57.5 minutes of top 5 field hockey, and Maryland is still pressing just as high as they were in the first 5 minutes. 8 players in their attacking half just before Northwestern moved this ball around to Maddie Zimmer.
It's what this team is all about. It's what they do. And it's worked today.
It is. And if you can put a team like Northwestern in distress, trying to go forward, that really bodes well for your chances in the national championship.
Zimmer had thought that Lawn played that out intentionally to slow Northwestern down. I do think it was unintentional from Lawn. No call besides the foul, and once again, it's Rain Wright stepping through, and she wants to run, but Northwestern can catch her out here. Cross sticks, whistle goes against Daly. Wright an option on the left, she gets the ball. Working on her fellow 17, Aaliyah Marshall. Rain Wright whips it inside, and it was deflected by somebody, not sure who, back out to Zimmer. And if Northwestern moves quickly, they can catch Maryland without a key defender. But they cannot. Van Rootselaar again, and is obstructed by Cornelius. Danielle Van Rootselaar. I'm going to be seeing that name in my nightmares. I said it about 45 times in this game.
It's unreal. It's a masterclass that even Gordon Ramsay would be proud of, the way that she's playing tonight, this afternoon.
That was good. That was good. It's been like nighttime for the Wildcats whenever Van Rootselaar's been on the ball. Here she goes again against Blass. And they call it an intentional play over the end line from Caleb Blass.
And that is the third penalty corner that I believe Danielle Van Rootselaar has won in almost the exact same fashion, playing the ball into a position where the Northwestern player just plays it across
I'm not
the end
sure.
line.
I'm not sure about this call. It looks like it just deflects off Blass for me. Certainly she's angled towards the end line. And she gave only token resistance to the call. Not reviewable even if Northwestern had their referral, by the way. That is a judgment call. And it results in now double-digit corners for Maryland, number 10. At some point, you start to think when, not if, they'll break through. But so far, the Wildcats have kept him out since the first one. Just over a minute to go to Burdine. Van Rootselaar again. Stopped again. Corner given. That came off of Wattis' foot as she kept it out, I think. I think it was deflected by Skubish, maybe off Wattis' foot. Either way. Let's see if we can get another look from this angle as Van Rootselaar fired it in. Yeah, it came off the foot of Wattis after it hit her stick. So no stroke from a denial of goal. But another corner, the 11th. Van Rootselaar one more time. Stopped again, just wide. DeBurdine was trying to contort her body to get a stick on that ball. But Skubish up to the challenge once more.
That might be the best save Annabelle Skubish has made all day.
I don't know how she got to that ball coming back across her body like that. 12 saves. Kraus working on Zimmer. Surrounded by Northwestern sticks. And it's back to the touchline. Out to the 25, 2 balls on the field. Maryland's going to have to slow it down. They should have stopped the clock. They waited a little bit too long. Still 27 seconds, plenty of time for Maryland to work. Remember, if you get a corner before the time expires, you get to play that corner out. Important rule as we come down to the wire here in the fourth quarter. 15 seconds. Terps need a sense of urgency if they want to score in regulation. Verleg's pass is deflected. Does Zimmer have time for one more odd man rush? Nope. But she clears the zone, and that will do it. We have had 60 minutes of hotly contested top 5 field hockey. It wasn't enough to decide it between these two teams. Northwestern won, Maryland won, and we are headed to 7-on-7 overtime after this masterclass of a regulation performance by Annabelle Skubish and the Wildcat defense.
And the names that we kept referencing all game long for the Terrapins, of course they're out here.
Of course. How could you leave Van Rootselaar off the field? And that would seem, oh boy, as the Wildcats immediately give it away. And turnovers even much more important in overtime with 7-on-7 than they are in 11-on-11 because possession is just so critical when there's so few players on the field. And that team speed Maryland has, you would think it would give them the natural edge in OT, but you never know. It certainly did against Iowa. Leah Kraus working on Aaliyah Marshall. So much more space for one-on-one matchups to be opened up. Kraus carries all the way in, but a nice deflection from the backside by Zimmer. And now Wattis wants to move with Maddie Zimmer. Working against DeBurdine, and a foul called. A foul was called. Not out of bounds off Northwestern, but a foul against DeBurdine leading in on Zimmer. Gives the Wildcats a chance to hold possession here. Blass sits back in that lower lying role in this overtime formation. She's the last line of defense as Menina Garcia goes ahead to Zimmer. Man, marking even more stark for Maryland when it comes to overtime. And they're doubling on Zimmer on the ball. She waited for it to go out of bounds so she could have some space going back in against Wright. And it'll go back to the 25. No corner given. With Blass opening up. Always so dangerous with nobody behind you. But you have to get all 7 players involved, or all 6 at least, besides the goalkeeper. So much more open space. Bakker's making a run. Blass looks for her on the back end. Bakker's. Nobody was in front. I think she was looking for Maddie Zimmer to get in there, but instead the cross leaks all the way across with nobody home.
And that's just one caveat of only having 6 field players on at once, is you can't have someone making that run every single time. Northwestern is really unlucky. It was a good entry pass from Benta Bakers, but no one on the receiving end.
8-10. Who will falter first? Both teams starting to see a little bit of fatigue set in. Although, to be honest, it's looking like it's affecting Northwestern a bit more right now. As Donnelly Charge is ahead. Everybody also just takes their time a little bit more. Don't even going full speed at all times. We'd have so much space. Van Rootselaar. Watt is coming back to defend. Van Rootselaar all the way in. Through and scores! Van Rootselaar slips in between the wickets of Annabelle Skubish. And Maryland, for the 4th time, has beaten Northwestern in OT. They win it 2-1, and they stay undefeated in the Big Ten. Who else? Danielle Van Rootselaar wins it for the Terps. 2 minutes into overtime.